Hello again. This is the Watering Man, Spiritual Toolbox number 81, the Love Chapter number 57, audio recording number 399, examination table number 61. And we are covering in this right now. I'm kind of doing a little thing on a kind of a reference type thing for the spiritual toolbox, but I'm still basing it out of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, okay? But we're in James chapter 5, verse 16 right now. I'm covering that a little bit. It's not exhaustive, but I'm having to delve into it a little bit deeper. Not real deep, but getting there a little bit. I'll start out by reading it from the King James Version of the Bible. It says, verse 16 of James chapter 5 says, "Confess your faults one to another, and pray for one another, that ye may be heard," or may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Okay, we've covered down pretty good down to confess your faults one to another and pray one for another that ye may be healed. Okay, now we'll work on the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Try not to get tongue-tied there. All right. Let's dig in here and see what we got. Bit of hair on that. Okay. Now, the next word after "you may be healed," which is at IAOMAI 2390, is much. That's 4383 POLYS. And let me look here because I didn't really write notes down on this. I think it pretty much means that it's an adjective. Many, much, large, including the, much, largely, mostly, often, let's check here real quick. Many, numerous, great. Okay, so it's like a lot of it. Okay, so we have a lot of those, thought processes have proceeded through the eye of the needle and back to EN and SY in God, okay? Let's see here real quick. Much, let me look here. Okay. Much, this is of the prayers of a righteous man. They got it in different order, so it kind of makes it a little hard to make sense of, okay? It's got like they translate much, availeth, prayer of a righteous man, the effectual, fervent. Okay, that's the way the King James translated. The much is that's pretty close. Okay, largely, it's many, much, okay? Okay, now availeth, that's 2480, okay? It's ISCHYO. It's 2480. It's this word.
Strong's G 2480. It's hool. It's hool.
It's hool. Okay. Alrighty then. It's hool. Just a second. It's a verb. It comes from 2479. It's on the online biblical usage. It's to be strong in body, to be robust, to be sound in health, to be in sound health and have power. Okay, but this availeth, we're working more. It's the internal, what's going on. These prayers, the communication of to God. Okay. Remember, the prayers of a righteous man's focusing on the internal health of one's thought processes, returning back EN and SYN, God's right-mindedness, not focus primarily on the outside, external, shining up the cup and giving you just lollipop, tiptoe through the tulip stuff. God's bringing this stuff to correct you. Okay? So look on a little deeper. Okay? Because in our own humanistic understanding, we can't understand all the ways of God. But that Spirit cries out and does things that we can't even utter. The understanding of the Spirit. Okay? I'll read more about that. Let me see. I did look that up. That's in... Just read Romans chapter 8, verse 18 through 28. Or read the whole thing, okay? In the lower 20s, you'll see that Spirit cries out with things you can't even utter. It goes to bat for you. Okay? I'll probably read that some, maybe just go over it, read it real easy. Skim it. Okay? Now, let's, okay. Now, let's go back up here. Okay. Now this, availeth, let's see, to be robust in the Thayers, to be robust, strong, and effectual in all or most situations and conditions, to have strength in your mind and God, to overcome all these pressures and trials of life, not to give in to them and go, oh, why is this all to me? And, you know, in the good and the bad, be level, go back from all that poop thinking all the way in, and that's why in God's right-mindedness in that pipeline of God. Okay? Let your waters of your mind, like neutrons, added to the nucleus of those elements in that water, making it a heavier water. You understand what I'm saying? I did a little recording kind of touching on that before, okay? Okay? It's working on getting your mind right. That's the focus. Not this external thing, just shining up outside the cup and tiptoe through the tulips and everything's hunky-dory. No. Okay? If you was doing that, you couldn't handle being thrown in a lion's den or being put in a fiery furnace, heated up 5 times as hot. Or being on that ship, you'd be just like those disciples. Oh, we're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die. What Jesus do? What you bothering me for? Better tell them, put a sock in it. Put a muzzle on that thing. Shut up, you winds and waves. Be still. All this affliction and all these temptations, all these tribulations, all these fire trials, just shut up. It's about what Jesus is saying. Because that ship is you. That ship is me. That ship is us, our own mind. God's correcting it. Shall we crouch up this board, my child? Yes, sir, Daddy. Let's get it out of here. Hi-ya! Right? And transform it. Burn up that garbage thinking with God's consuming fire. And melt off those impurities with God's refining fire. In the heat of the day, when God's doing it. When that day stars are risen in your heart, in your mind, and you understand God is great. Right? Agree in Him. Right back through the eye of the needle. It's funnel. Getting tighter and tighter and tighter. More and more pressure, but you handle it better. Start out, my goodness, straight away. You could trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He's putting you right in a lion's den. We're right in a fire trial. We're telling you to build this big ark. And then it ain't even rained there, out in the middle of a desert. Everybody mocking you and yelling, you're an idiot. What are you wasting your time for? Not a lake within 1,000 miles or 100 miles of here. What the heck? What are you doing, idiot? Dude, you can imagine they're a lot more. I'm sure it was a lot more intense than that. What's no? I mean, that rest in any situation. Rest in God. Same thing as in God. Resting. The battle is the Lord's. It's not yours. Don't get out there and try to fight fire with fire from you, from your might and your power. Because you know you're a big bad Goliath. Yeah. No. See, that's relying upon that me, myself, and I, that ego that tries to edge God out inside you to help you do it because it says it's your buddy. It's your buddy. It'll help you with good things and bad things. Hogwash is taking and adding to. It's like blowing wind or adding to a top of a wave to another wave. It's getting bigger and farther off the love of God. Having you believe that the love of God is that still small voice in you is more and more insignificant. Just trust in that barking alpha dog or that he-hawing donkey or that parakeet thing that's all messed up. Don't be dumb. See? But unless God shows you, gives you, permits you to see, hear, taste, touch, and smell with Christ in control of that, you can't. So it's just like what Jesus said on the cross in Luke 23, verse 34. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. Unless God gives you the ability to see, hear, taste, touch, to be able to hear what the Spirit says to the churches, the called out ones, the ecclesia, not a building with some plaque or written junk up there on the... That's just a meeting place. Know you not that you are the temple of the living God? Come on, man, get your mind right. Okay, that's what God's telling you. Okay, and He's correcting us. So when you're in correction, it's not, here, we'll give you some ice cream. No, it takes stuff. It's like when you correct your children, you gotta take some stuff away, or maybe even it might even resort to a little paddling out of the butt. Is whatever that discipline calls for, to get you to change the way you think and think differently. And it's for your good. See, because God, the Father, is going to do it correctly. Not this all messed up stuff. God's going to throw you in hell forever and ever and ever because He's the mightiest, greatest. He can do it, and He's just going, you better be afraid of God. When it says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all understanding, it's not fear. It's reverence, honor, respect, understanding that God is your exceeding great reward. It's not contradictory to the other. It's not telling you one thing and another thing. Come on, man. Get your mind right. Quit being blasphemous of God. Saying, you're a big monster, God. I'm bow down to you because you might beat me up. Not just once, but you put me down there forever. That's baloney. That's sick. Can you see that? You repent. Change the way you think about that crap. That's daggone poopy thinking. Get away from it. Come back into God full bore in hot pursuit. Let God reveal it. And stay in it, stay in it, stay in it. Agree. No matter what. I'm in the lion's den. Still calm. Most of that eye of the storm. Agreeing to God. What's into agreeing to God. Not try to manipulate, try to go through a yellow light, try to not do it. All this other stuff is disagreeing. The only way truth in life is to is no. Yahweh is salvation. Jesus. Right? I-E-S-O-U-S. God is salvation. Yahweh is salvation through the Christ. Through the Christos. So the anointing of God. Pursue in hot pursuit. The way, the truth, and the life. Come right back into God. And keep on existing. Habitually practice that thing. Whatever things you've seen and heard and all these things in me, like in Philippians chapter 4, verse 9. Do that. 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 Boom, boom, boom. Right in there. 1 to 2 to 4. Those strands double, and he's twisted them. They're actively to twist those strands of rope into a heavier, stronger rope. God's load testing your bridge. Okay? Now, these, let's see, where was I at? Lost track where I was at. Got carried away. Okay. Okay. Availeth. Okay. Yeah, 2480. Okay. Be strong and effective in all or most situations and conditions to have strength in your mind towards the mind of God to overcome. Because God's the only way to overcome this stuff. In the past go and like collect your $200. Past go and like collect your increase back in and this way and back towards that. From out loud towards and into. See, God's going to give that. Because it's in there. You can't do it yourself. It's not by your might, your power, but by my spirit, says the Lord, okay? And the Strong's is to have, that's possess. Drive out the former inhabitants in your land, in your mind, and possess it in their place. He's transforming that old stick of thinking, burning that up, refining that out, melting it out, and you exist in the right-mindedness of God. A little bit more. God's increasing you. Okay, and your force, your mind, your strength increases, okay? Now, that's a verb. And then that word, how does this say that?
Strong's G 2480 is whole.
It's whole.
It's whole.
I-S-C-H-Y-O. Okay, that word comes from the word 2479. Okay, let's look at that real quick. Okay, that's a feminine noun, and it means your ability, force, strength, might. It's forcefulness, and that's from, it's a derivative from 2192. Okay, I'll try to cover this a little. Echo, that's that possess. Let's see.
Strong's G 2192. Echo.
That's down to the that's a primary verb, down to the root. To possess, right? I was just telling you about that. Possess, to have, to hold, to possess the land, the right-mindedness of God. By driving out that former inhabitants, that old carnal crap, just by agreeing into God. And he'll cut that stuff out. He'll burn that garbage thinking out with his consuming fire. He'll melt those impurities out of that. He'll refine that gold, his nature, character, and authority, his righteousness, his love beyond words. He'll refine it, bring it into a more pure state. A higher quality, gold, his nature, character, and authority in you. In each and every thought process. He's transforming you right back. He's getting your mind right. Agree. And it's done through much fiery trials, much pressure, much thalipsis, much tribulation. Not tiptoe to the tulips. Okay? Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling. Hold on to that feeling of God, that love of God. That's beyond words. Go into Him. Exist. The way, the truth, and the life is Yahweh's salvation through the Christ. Jesus. Right? Jesus Christ, that's the pattern son. He was the Messiah. He is inside you. No, not after the man, after the Spirit of God that's in you. We read that just a little bit ago, or a few back. I can't think of the verse right now. I got it written down there, but we can go back here if you need it. Okay? All right. Now, we'll chase that one down to the root a little bit quicker. I'm not trying to do this one exhaustive, but getting a little deeper. Okay, okay. We're trying to work on the effectual prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Well, that was availeth. Okay, let's get down here. They got them kind of in a different order here. Okay, much availeth, and now the prayer. Okay, now this is a little different word than that other word for prayer on up. Pray on up there a little bit earlier in this verse. This one's translated as prayer. It's 1162, and it's Deesis. It's this word.
Strong's G 1162. Deesis.
Deesis. Now, let's see here. Let me get in this word. Okay, it's a feminine noun. It's from 1189. And, let me see. A formal drawn request. Okay, that's right in the eye of the storm. When God's putting a question to you and you're communicating God, you're agreeing. Okay, and after you've done this so much, time after time, you know the right way to go. So then from Ian and SYN, where God's holding you tight in there, you gain a little tiny bit of your inheritance, and that's what you're praying out of. You can help get the splinters out of the other's eyes in this area. You know the answers, and the answer may be different specifically, but in general, it's agreeing to God. Agree. God's not a monster. Okay. Now this okay, it's that word deesis. Excuse me. A formal request, to beg or to request. So you can make your request made known to God. But you don't want to take a bit. You got to realize that request may be off the mark, because you don't really know. It may not be lining up with what God's doing. You may be like a little kid getting corrected by a parent and thinking, I want my toy back, or you whip my butt, or why don't you just give me ice cream instead of taking my toys away, or take my phone away, or whatever. Well, it's off the mark. It's not just, here, take care, give me what I want. I want to tiptoe through the tulips, and you're not letting me tiptoe through the tulips. What's wrong? I didn't do nothing. Weeping and wailing, gnashing of teeth. No, you can request, beg, but if it's not lining up with God, it's not going to work. Answer is no. No matter if it seems good to you or bad to you, it's not in the love of God. Okay? God's correcting that thing. Okay? Now, okay, it's a request made for something desired, a respectful or humble request, meaning that if it doesn't line up with God's right-mindedness, His righteousness, then you got to be just like Jesus. Let this cup pass from me. I don't really want to do this, but nevertheless, not my will be done, not my desires, but your will be done. Right? We got to be just like that. Make your request be done to God, and then listen intently and obey it. Because when you're out here like surfing these waves of emotion, you're off of that pipeline, and most of the time you're going to be missing. God's going to say, well, I can fulfill that a little bit, but we're still bringing you back down this way, back down to my pipeline. My love, beyond words. I got to correct you, my child. Be reasonable, sit my way. Okay. Yes, sir. Right, in hot pursuit. Don't just try to manipulate God and throw a temper tantrum and whatever, all this stupid stuff. Okay? It's not going to work. Okay? That's not being respectful and humble. Okay? You're trying to say, well, I know better than you do, Daddy. Okay, okay. A humble request as to a superior. God's ways. God is definitely superior to any person. Okay? My wants and desires have to be second. Whatever I prayed and requested, let's take a back seat. If God says differently, then God's superior. God's ways are superior. Yes, sir, Daddy. I gotta cut that junk out. Cut that hot. Shall we karate chop this board, my child? This humanistic thinking? Yes, sir, Daddy. Hiya! Cut it out and transform that into your right-mindedness. See, you're being reasonable, sent my way, my child. Right? Make God true. And all that humanistic thinking, all that missing the mark, all those prayers and stuff that you're putting out there that's off the mark, not lining up with God, burn that crap up. It's not right. Chop it out. Okay? Because God's superior, and it's also to those who are in authority. God's in authority on you, right? And it's a supplication, it's a prayer to God. It's a request, a petition. But if it doesn't line up with what God's right-mindedness is and correcting that thinking inside of you, then you got to submit. Nevertheless, not my will but yours be done. Right? Now, a supplication is a humble prayer or petition. Remember, you're humble in the sight of the Lord. Humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, and He will lift you up. See, humble. If this is what I want, Father, but nevertheless, okay, I'm humbly asking you, take this cup from me. I don't want to have to do this good thing or this bad thing. I don't really want to. Okay? I don't want to I want to do this, you know what I mean? You're way out here, but I don't really want to do this or whatever. This stuff's hurting. This stuff's not the way I want it. But if, nevertheless, not my will, but yours will be done. You got to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Know that He causes all this stuff to work together for good. Whether you understand it or not. Are you trusting in God or not? Even when the things get tough. And it's just not going your way, and you can't understand how in the world is this God's will. throw a temper tantrum, and I'm just not going to serve you no more. And you are putting me in hell, and all this stuff. It's just temper tantrums. Okay, cut that stuff out. To agree with God in hot pursuit. Quit it. Do a 180-degree about face. Metanoia. Change the way you think about that. And pursue God and God's right-mindedness in hot pursuit. See? Quit shooting your arrows out there in the wrong direction and then blaspheming God and saying, barking just like your old alpha dog inside. I'm telling you good and bad, and don't feed from that tree. Okay? Now, I think that pretty much covered on that prayer. Okay, we'll have to pick that up later because I'm about to run out of time. So we got down, confess your faults to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. Okay, we're working on that other, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. And they got that in a little different order, okay? And we're down here, I'll draw a line right here, okay? And I've got quite a bit more on this verse, okay? That was Spiritual Toolbox number 81, okay? Have a great day, and I'll try to bring this out farther a little later. Bye-bye.